It's day one of a second lockdown here in Windsor-Essex. This time it hits during one of the most important months for small business owners who say regulations favor big box retailers.
If you get a phone call, you're lucky. That hurts. It's a very deep, deep pain.
Tonight we hear what it's like being inside lockdown at a long-term care facility and just how hard this is on residents. Quick look outside tonight. Chance of flurries. A few were falling earlier today in Windsor. -6 outside right now with the wind chill. Colette Kennedy has a full look at this week's forecast tonight. I'm Chris Ensing. Thanks for joining us. A historic day in Canada. Healthcare workers in Toronto were some of the first to get the COVID-19 vaccine in the country. Hope of what's to come. But a grim reminder today of the toll that this virus has already taken on Windsor-Essex. Cases, the number of people in hospital, deaths, all on the rise as we enter lockdown. Let's take a look at the numbers here. The health unit reporting 5 more people died this weekend. 2 men and a woman in their 70s, a man in his 80s, and a woman in her 90s. None were living at a long-term care or retirement home. It brings us to 91 people who've passed because of this virus. Today, there are 53 people in hospital with COVID-19. 11 are in the ICU. And this morning, the highest single-day increase since the pandemic started 9 months ago. 195 people testing positive for the virus. And Windsor-Essex today marks the first day of the lockdown. Stores deemed essential by the province can remain open at a limited capacity. But for small businesses in the region, many are having to close their doors for the time being. With more, I'm joined now live by the CBC's Sanjay Maru. Sanjay, how are small business owners feeling about that change?
Well, Chris, it's a difficult day for many business owners in the region. Lockdown essentially forcing many of those non-essential stores to shut down, and those stores can only be open for pickup or delivery. But we also know that there are many stores in the region where that isn't possible. And for stores that, and rather owners that run those types of stores, they say that this whole deal is not fair to them.
Who's to say that Walmart or Costco's t-shirt is any safer than Ma and Pa's t-shirt that they're selling? In fact, Ma and Pa's t-shirt is much safer because they can limit the amount of people, they can thermometer check. There's much less merchandise and staff to keep track of. There's much less customers to keep track of. The tracing is much easier. I don't see a single Costco doing track tracing at the door with phone numbers and thermometer checks.
I know a lot of my customers that I've had in the last 2 days, because we were told on Friday, so we basically had, my customers had 2 days to get in here. They were all very unhappy with the government's decision on this. They told me they felt safer coming into my store than they would into a big box store. I have maybe 5 to 6 people in at a time, not like hundreds of people. They do feel safer shopping in a smaller store.
And there's been an online petition put forward by the Downtown Windsor BIA. Today it's received more than 5,200 signatures. Among the asks is a ban from the province to essentially stop big box retailers from selling items that some of these smaller stores cannot. However, the province has said a few weeks ago that it would be, quote, a logistical nightmare to make that happen.
Sanjay, what do medical experts think about this call to reconsider what's allowed to be open and the way that it can remain open?
Well, Chris, I spoke with Dr. Peter Lynn. He's a family physician, and he actually agrees with many of these small business owners. He says that while he understands that the province's goal behind this directive is to limit the opportunity where people can gather together and possibly spread COVID-19, he does say that this could send a mixed message, allowing big box retailers to stay open while those smaller stores where less people may be gathering around, where that would not be possible. Now, Windsor Mayor Drew Dilkens this morning tweeting out that he's going to be appealing to the province for where he can find more supports for small businesses affected by this lockdown. I did reach out to the province to see if they received any correspondence. No word on that. However, they do reiterate their intention to provide $600 million in aid to any small businesses affected by this lockdown. Chris.
Thanks for this, Sanjay. The CBC's Sanjay Maru live today. Today's lockdown was announced on Friday. Devonshire Mall is now curbside pickup only, but stores were open this weekend with the mall extending their hours. Many said it was a relief.
I am thankful for it because I was not done my shopping and I had to get stuff for the grandchildren, and that can't be gift cards. You got to get them toys and something fun.
There was a lot of long lines, especially for like some of the more popular stores. And there was basically people everywhere. I don't know, it almost seems kind of counterintuitive because like the point is to stay home, but since we have the extra days, it's like everyone's going, which is kind of the opposite of what they want, I think. But I think the shopping experience in itself was fine.
Everyone is tight, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't look like it's working. I get it, I went in there, but I need to get my stuff done, and I get it. I'm maybe a bad person for doing that, but still, like, I still want to get my stuff done.
This is the most important time of the year for a small business. It could make up 20% of their revenue, according to the Windsor-Essex Chamber of Commerce. Their president says that without local support, we could see more places close for good.
You take that opportunity away from them, many businesses will be hugely challenged and some may not be able to recover and stay afloat. Hence, I really urge every community person here to think twice before they buy any product or any service. If it is possible for you to buy this locally, take that extra step, put a little bit more money if you have to, but go and support your local business.
As part of a one-on-one year-end interview that I have with the CEO of the Windsor-Essex Regional Chamber of Commerce, we'll be airing more of it this week on Windsor Morning, Afternoon Drive, and right here at our 6 o'clock show. The full interview will be available online at cbc.ca/Windsor. Nearly 6,000 new cases have pushed Canada's total infections past 466,000. But in the first tangible sign of hope beyond the pandemic, the country has officially started its largest mass vaccination program in history. Now, first up is the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine that's already reached the arms of the first few Canadians within 24 hours of arriving across the border. CBC's Hannah Thibodeau has more about this milestone day.
This is a big shot of hope. 5 frontline healthcare workers in Toronto were some of the first Canadians to get their COVID-19 vaccine.
I'm excited. We have been waiting for this for so long, and I'm here now, and I'm so thankful.
The very first person in Canada to get the vaccine was long-term care resident, 89-year-old Giselle Levesque in Quebec City. Nearly 80% of deaths in the first wave occurred in long-term care and retirement homes.
I felt emotional because I know how worried and anxious families and healthcare workers are all across the country, how we've all worked so hard as a country.
This is the major tool to help getting life back to normal after 9 traumatic months of shutdowns, isolation, and thousands dying from the disease. Alberta expects to get its first doses to be delivered tomorrow.
We'll begin immunizing ICU doctors and nurses, respiratory therapists, and eligible continuing care staff in Edmonton and in Calgary.
So you've had dress rehearsals already.
In Winnipeg, no vaccine has been delivered there yet, but they are preparing for it, like all of the locations across the country.
This is not the light at the end of the tunnel, but it's kind of somebody lighting a match to light a light and help us see our way out of the abyss and the darkness we've had over this past almost a year now.
Health officials say that this first batch is like a trial run for the larger shipments of vaccines still to arrive. However, there is confusion as to when that vaccine might be on the ground and exactly how many doses, something government officials at all levels are continuing to work out. Hannah Thibodeau, CBC News, Ottawa.
Doses of the vaccine could be in Windsor-Essex in the next 1 or 2 weeks. Dr. Wajid Ahmed says he's still waiting for the details on paper. He told Tony Doucette on Windsor Morning today that there will be a limited number, and they're working on how to prioritize who will get those first doses. Meanwhile, this morning, Dr. Ahmed, during the daily briefing, called rising caseloads an enormous fight and asking once again for people to think about their own actions during the pandemic.
As a community, are we okay to say that it's okay, let people die. We'll just still do what we need to do because we are doing it safely. No, you're not. Because if people must be doing these things safely, we wouldn't have this number of cases. So it's a false sense of security that some people are putting forward.
With those vaccinations now available in Canada on a limited basis, prioritizing access may be an issue. For one epidemiologist, starting with long-term care homes, which have been COVID-19 hotspots since the early days of the pandemic, makes a lot of sense.
If you're going to target a high-risk population, this is the one to target. And we have to remember that you have to vaccinate not just the people who live in long-term care homes, but you also have to vaccinate the people who work in long-term care homes, because one of the big problems we had was because, at least in the first wave, a lot of people were working in multiple different homes. They were spreading the virus from institution to institution.
Health Canada expects about half of the country will have access to a vaccine by the end of June 2021. The remainder should be able to obtain a vaccine by the end of the year. There's been a lot of focus on people living in long-term care homes during this pandemic. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa had a chat with Barry Hickling. He's 71 years old, and the Tecumseh home that he's in right now, they're dealing with a COVID-19 outbreak. But he also sits on a province-wide council for people who live in long-term care homes. And he says one of the things that he hears people miss the most at other homes is the spirit of Christmas.
A hug is very important. And family is used to hugging. And we can't hug anymore. We can't touch. We can't do anything. And that hurts. It's sad.
What are you personally feeling, not being able to have that communication, that contact with others during this time?
It is extremely difficult. You sense the isolation immediately because you think you're going to go outside or to visit with another neighbor and so on, and you're cut off. I'm sorry, we can't let you out of your room. Well, I'm feeling it. And every resident does. The minute that the isolation is called, it hits. It's instant.
Is the home providing technology at this point, or do people have to supply it themselves?
Well, some people have their own iPads or phones or whatever they have. Others are left with nothing. Fortunately, I have an iPad, and I can communicate with other people in the village or outside. But many residents have nothing. They have depended solely upon the visits of their family or telephone calls or window visits, whatever they can get. And it's cut off, it's dead, it's non-existent right now. I'm puzzled. How? How does a Christmas decoration, whether it's the tree or the ornaments or lights, whatever it is, how does that interfere with my living that you say is a result of COVID-19? I find that a big stretch. I really do. And it hurts the people that are living there. They're the ones that are starting and beginning to get excited about Christmas and the season. And their decorations are down. They've got nothing up and will have nothing up. I still get choked up about it. And I'm not alone. People are hungry for fellowship. We're hungry for someone to be with us. And I'm going to dig up my family and say, hey, get over here, I'm ready for you. And I hope that they do. I want my family to come when it's all over. No more masks, no more worries or frets. But just to be alone together and share again our life in wonderful Windsor.
Some of the simple things I think we're all looking forward to. The return to online learning for everyone in Windsor-Essex County who's in an elementary or high school went smoothly today. Last week, the local health unit ordered all schools closed in the region, and that was going to happen today. Parents we spoke with were happy that the job that the school staff has done so far.
They were given some instructions testing connections, testing technologies last night just to prepare. And then they had to sign on and join their classes meetings at normal school hours. So they got up a little later. There was no school bus to catch and no outfits to worry about. I think they're pajamas from the waist down. So the morning routine was made a little bit more easy.
It's worked pretty well. I think they're both engaged. They're using Teams, and that's a fairly user-friendly platform. So they seem to both be, no one's running. If they were running around the house, then that would be a bad sign, and I'm not hearing that. So that's really good.
Now, the Catholic School Board confirmed that there was an early morning issue with Google platforms that it relies on for classes and for communication, but said it was quickly fixed with very little impact. The union representing some teachers at the public board says there were some minor issues with technology, but say the majority of reports that they got were positive. They think the outbreak at Bagley that shut the school down last month was a valuable lesson.
So what we've learned over since then, which is about 3 weeks, is to be prepared. And so there have been a lot of discussions both in schools, with classrooms, with students, and with the faculty to do dry runs in the schools to be ready for an announcement like Thursday. I think for the most part, that's paid off.
Leaders in Chatham-Kent are asking people in Windsor-Essex not to go to their municipality.
My friend and colleague, Dr. Wajid Ahmad, the MOH there, is telling everybody in Windsor to respect the lockdown and stay home. So I am echoing his message exactly.
Right now, Chatham-Kent is in the yellow zone and hoping not to go into orange. The CAO for Chatham-Kent says thousands of people commute back and forth between the two regions every single day. But he says if your trip is not essential, you should stay home if you live in Windsor-Essex. He says they don't want people to circumvent those lockdown orders. Chatham-Kent has also canceled ice time in hockey rinks for people living in Essex County.
We've all seen that our businesses have been hammered by COVID. It's a terrible impact on all of our local businesses. So, the last thing we're trying to do is to have decisions that are going to be more negative on them. So, of course, that's a concern for us. But the flip side is, for the last 10 months, we've all been balancing off what's the health and safety issues versus the economic impact, right?
Now, libraries in Tilbury and Wheatley are offering curbside service only. The drive test centers in Windsor-Essex have suspended in-vehicle driver testing, and because of the lockdown, the province won't let people pop over to Chatham-Kent for those. Sidewalks turning into skating rinks. It might be a little difficult to watch this, and we may laugh a little as it happens, but who among us have not been sort of slippery while we've been trying to walk around on some of those icy conditions? Thankfully, none of that here in Windsor-Essex yet. There's a serious side to this as well, though. Police reported more than 100 accidents on the icy roads in the Ukrainian capital where this village was shot. It took about 4,000 sweepers to clear the city's streets. We'll have a look at the full forecast when Colette Kennedy joins us next. going to take a look now at what may be the perfect depiction of a Canadian winter wonderland. A multi-activity skate and ski park created on a frozen lake in Yellowknife. Two locals came up with the idea and kind of snowballed from there.
It seemed to be a relatively underutilized lake, and there's all this great ice around all of these people. So we were kind of sitting around thinking, why don't we make something out here? Take a little pressure off the city facilities, seeing as how numbers are reduced due to COVID.
Now, thanks to some long hours, Big Hearts, the lake now has a 2-kilometer skate park, 9 hockey rinks, and 2 cross-country ski trails. The new facility is already proving a big hit. Locals with cabin fever are rushing to enjoy the great outdoors. There is no way we could do any of that here, Colette. There is just nothing. No snow on the ground. A couple flakes today, but we are lacking in that department there.
Yeah, and I love that line in that story. It kind of snowballed from there.
It's pretty good, eh? Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. Well, there are other parts of Ontario that are seeing some snow lake effect stuff, and I'm going to show you on the radar. It's always pretty dramatic, or I find it so. Anyway, when you get these stronger winds coming across the relatively warmer waters of the lakes for this time of year. Our current temperatures not exactly warm, sitting below the freezing mark, and then let's factor in the winds, and it feels like -7 for Windsor, feels like -6 there for Chatham-Kent. So some very cool air that's coming in, and the temperatures are going to be plunging overnight tonight. So those winds, westerly flow for Sarnia, but turning more northwesterly now, and that's kind of going to be the trend, that we're going to see them turning more northwesterly than around to the north. But this is the forecast. I want to show you a few things that happen, that it does get lighter tonight through the overnight. Still going to have significant wind chills tomorrow morning. The next thing I want to show you is a system that's going to be pushing up along the eastern seaboard. It's going to give quite a bit of snow to the U.S., but as it comes through, or it's moving to the south of us, we get into an easterly flow here. So the winds will be picking up as we go towards Wednesday and Wednesday night towards Thursday as this moves through. We shouldn't, because of that direction, be seeing any lake effect, but just because it's going to be passing so closely to us, we may get into a little bit of snow associated with it as we go towards Thursday. This here is the lake effect I was telling you about. So as you get those winds coming across the lake, we're seeing quite a bit of flurry activity here through our skies, especially just to the east and northeast of Windsor area. And through the overnight, as those winds back off a little bit, we'll see a little bit less, but still off and on through the day. Other parts, if you're doing any traveling of the province, you can suddenly get into a situation where you have reduced visibility. This is Wednesday, early in the day. Then as we go a little bit later, see that little bit of light snow that wants to try and push in here. Again, just kind of tagging us in terms of how it looks with the tracking of that system. For now, it does appear to stay south. So tonight, -8, feeling like -13 by tomorrow morning. Our high, a struggle to get to freezing, so that's why -1, and then we'll be close to freezing for the next few days until about Friday, when we'll start to warm up a little bit.
A sunny day tomorrow, that'll be nice too.
Yes, it'll be nice to get that sun. We're getting that clearing coming as we go into the later evening hours.
Love seeing that. Thanks for this, Colette.
You're welcome.
Now, coming up next, a formal vote will confirm Joe Biden's win. As President of the United States, members of the Electoral College are meeting today to cast that final ballot.
gem.
Voters across the United States went to the polls last month to choose their next president. Today, a formal vote will confirm Joe Biden's win. Members of the Electoral College are meeting in all 50 states and the District of Columbia to cast their ballots.
Sign, and then we'll collect those and give them to the secretary for her to tally.
Now, most states have laws binding their electors to the winner of the popular vote in their state. Joe Biden is expected to receive 306 votes, 36 more than the 270 he needs to be declared the U.S. president. Donald Trump is still refusing to concede defeat. Trump has pushed false claims of widespread voter fraud and is still tweeting about overturning the election results. So far, Trump's numerous legal challenges have failed. The McHale brothers are canceling their turkey giveaway event. Instead, they're going to be delivering turkeys this year. The giveaway is going to look different than in years past. Here's what it has looked like. They had planned to do a drive-through on Friday at the Festival Plaza, and now they'll only be delivering turkeys to people who have signed up. They'll be giving away 500 turkeys, all of which have already been claimed by members of the community. Packages will be delivered between December 18th and December 21st. That's it for us here on CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. We're on social media too. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The Rick Mercer Report is up next. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.